webinar to launch the virtual group consultation cancer care review programme, and it's been a long journey to get to this afternoon, so we've got here in the end, and I'm delighted that we're now in a position to actually launch the programme. We actually started this work what seems a long time ago, but as a Cancer Alliance, and particularly the primary care group of the Alliance, we've been concerned about cancer care reviews for a long time. They're mandated for primary care to do, but we've been concerned about their actual worth and value, and we did some work on a couple of years ago to try and prevent and build on the perception that for some aspects of primary care they become a tick box exercise with particularly not as much benefit from patients as we'd like. And I think how primary care comes out in the recent National Cancer Patient Experience Survey reflects that perhaps we're not doing as well with cancer care reviews as we'd like to think. So this project builds on that work, but also incorporates the new way of consulting that was brought upon by the pandemic. So this project actually was started way back in 2019 and has had several interruptions for COVID. So we finally got there. I think the most striking thing I'd like to emphasise about this project, I've never been involved in a bit of transformation that has had so much patient involvement. We talk about co-production and involving patients, but again, I think often we pay lip service to it, but this project has really had fantastic patient involvement, contribution, and I would say actually sometimes a bit to my chagrin, it's been driven by patients rather than clinicians, and I've been finally persuaded that that's a plus, not a negative. So I'll leave you with that thought and introduce Marion and Leigh, who've been two, not the complete team, but two of the patient representatives who've actually contributed enormously to this project. So over to Marion and Leigh.
Thanks very much, Peter. So I'm Leigh, and hi Marion. We've worked a lot together. Can we go to the next slide, please? And we've also worked with another important lady who's been really instrumental in contributing to this project, Fiona Carey. And Fiona, when she got her own cancer diagnosis, she took the time to actually mind map what impact that had on her. So to dump all of the consequences that cancer was going to have in every aspect of her life onto a mind map. Does this resonate with you and your experience, Marion?
Yeah, Leigh, it does. And when I saw it all laid out like this, I became even more aware of the enormity of what anybody who deals with cancer in whatever way goes through. And what I also was quite struck was the difficulty in raising many of these topics. So yeah, it resonated and really made me draw up short and think, yeah, this happened to us.
Do you think that these are things that you would normally get to discuss with a GP or a caregiver?
No, I don't think they're things that we normally have the opportunity. They feel too trivial and they feel too big simultaneously. So how can you say something to your GP that's sort of like, I'm not quite sure what's happening here, because you're very aware, I think, Leigh. I think you're very aware that the GP, the consultant, the CNS are busy, and they are busy, and that your concerns are trivial, but they're not. But there's not the place to take them. And the language is so hard. You know, we've got things on here that we don't normally talk about, you know, societally, we don't talk about. We don't say, I'm having problems with my sex life. I mean, how do you start that conversation with your GP when you know he's got 7 minutes and you need to talk about your pain? And that's really, really hard. How do you say, you know, most of us have got about 4,000 weeks to live and you've just robbed me of 500 and I'm really angry. The GP is going to go, whoa, anger problems. That's not what we're asking, and I'm not prejudging everybody's reaction, but that's my perception before I began a lot of this work as to how it would be received. So I couldn't say those things. It was incredibly hard and very lonely.
And I think that some of these areas really resonate with me. And as you say, I don't think that you would necessarily raise them in a course of a clinical session, but they certainly have a huge impact on your life and on your mental well-being as well. So, for example, when I think about the financial area, that really resonates with me because my husband was first diagnosed with cancer, with a brain tumour. And that was huge. As the breadwinner, suddenly we had to face a series of challenges. How were we going to survive economically, support him through his treatment, and actually make sure that he was warm at home and well looked after, but at the same time, you know, we were putting food on the table and the children were clothed. And it's not just that, it's holiday insurance that Fiona has mentioned there as well. You either can't get travel insurance or you get limited travel insurance. Travel insurance premiums are really expensive. So all of a sudden, all of those normal aspects of life suddenly become inaccessible to you. The cancer takes away much more than your health, do you think?
I think it does. It takes away your agency, and you are battling on two fronts constantly. One, to feel normal and to be appearing to cope, and the other to be totally crumbling away underneath. And it's really hard to say to anybody. Fiona's put here on the top left, as I look at this slide, every cancer patient is entitled from time to time to curl up on the bed and howl. And I really, really wish that somebody said that to me at some stage, because usually what people say, and I am not the person who had the cancer, I was the carer of that person. What people normally say is something like, oh, you're coping so well. Oh, if only they knew. And I could not find a safe space to say, yeah, but do you know what's actually happening at home? Do you know what's actually going on? Do you know what it really feels like? Does this feel like that for you? Am I, as well as dealing with this, am I actually going crazy? Am I having a breakdown? If I tell the GP, will they put me on antidepressants or something? And it's all of those irrational thoughts that go through your head, and they go through and through because you've got nowhere to put them down and express them. That's what I was finding.
And interestingly enough, when I look at this area of aftermath on Fiona's map, that's hugely significant as well. It's not just whilst you're undergoing treatment, there is an enduring impact to having had a cancer diagnosis. For me, it was double because I lost my husband, first of all, to a brain tumour. So I had to deal with the aftermath of losing somebody to cancer. They didn't lose their battle. There wasn't the treatment available to support that battle. And that has an enduring impact, not only on me, but on my children, on our wider family. It has absolutely transformed our life. Our lives will never be the same again. And for myself, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the end of my husband's life. And even though it was a small tumour and it was removed very quickly, the uncertainty and doubt that stays with you, is that going to come back? You know, at what point am I going to get unwell again? It takes away those feelings that you have of certainty that life is safe and secure. It puts you really in you feel very much like you're on the precipice a lot of the time. Have you felt that, Marion?
That's a really good word, Leigh. Precipice is a really good one. I will just share that my journey has been complicated by a relationship of domestic abuse, and it is remarkably common within this setting, and many of you will know that work we're doing. And however do you share something like that? However do you say, even if you're not in a domestically abusive relationship, how do you say, actually, I'm really struggling with my relationship with my husband, wife anyway, because societally we say, you know, oh, you're being so good looking after him. And if you happen to ever say, I think I might need to leave him, then believe you me, the comments you get back are astonishing. So we're under huge pressure. Thanks. We're under huge pressure to, as I said before, to be coping. And actually, we don't all come into this ghastly diagnosis, perfect. And it's so hard to find somewhere where people understand and don't fall about if you say, you know, it was rubbish to begin with and this has made it worse, or I think about death all the time, or things aren't right. People don't try to solve it. I just want somebody to hear. And I think that this VGCCR is an ideal opportunity to voice those problems, emotions, psychological issues, whatever we want to call them, in a safe, secure environment with somebody facilitating who's going to keep a hold on it, and other people who can share that. And also there's I think if I had been given an opportunity, there's an anonymity to VGCCR that I would really relish, because if August gets too much, you think, I'm just going to go and have a little cry and then come back again. And that's absolutely fine. So I would really have welcomed something like this when it was really tough for me.
I agree, because I don't think that any clinician, any caregiver can really sit down and come up with a comprehensive list of all the areas that you should address. They wouldn't consider half of these areas. And I think, you know, 10 people in a room discussing would come up with even more areas. There would be areas we haven't considered at all. And something that's really important is Fiona's got silver linings, and there are some silver linings as well. Because I have had a positive experience in terms of the care that I've received from my GP. She was a fantastic influence, providing care and support throughout. But what that really highlighted to me was that that is not a consistent level of care that's available to everybody. Some people do not have that close relationship with their GP. So they need that counselling environment, that feeling of non-judgment. And I think that's why we as patients believe that this is a really valid approach, that this is going to be so valuable to a whole range of people who can discuss things that you may never have entertained. It's not a tick box exercise, it's a real opportunity for people to air their experiences, to feel free of judgment. And my advice to anybody who participates in these sessions is to dispel any prejudgments that you've got, open your ears and really listen to these patients' experiences. I think you will learn a lot.
Totally. Thanks, Leigh.
Thank you, Marion and Leigh. And I think, as I hinted at, one of the things that I've learned myself I've been a GP for 30 years, and you still learn. And if you're a decent GP, you learn from patients. And I think Leigh and Marion's experiences illustrate that. I've almost been a GP as long as Liz Towers, who's our next speaker.